Coming up on episode 177, we journey into the land of Wildemount, take a look at indie games, prepare for Animal Crossing and Doom, and much, much more on the 8-Bit Adventures podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the 8-Bit Adventures podcast, bringing you the latest and greatest geeky news of the week. I am your host, Sean Hayes, and with me are my wonderful co-hosts, as always, Courtney Bolin.
Hey, everybody!
And Josh York.
I think the first DLC for Animal Crossing should be the Doom crossover, where demons start showing up on your island, and you get the Doom armor, and you just go out and start, killing demons. That's what Animal Crossing's all about.
There's been I love the amount of crossover fan art.
Yeah.
There's been, especially of like Isabelle wearing like Doomslayer armor and like going out and like shooting up demons.
Isabella's just an actual Doom guy.
It's pretty interesting.
I think I said this last time. I want them to do like the Rip and Tear metal song from Doom, but in Animal Crossing.
Oh, KK Slider
style.
doing a cover of Rip and Tear.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we talked about that last week because I mentioned the Old Town Road cover. Yeah.
Yes.
But yes, welcome everyone. So why don't we get right into Animal Crossing and Doom come out on Friday.
Yes, they do.
And the internet was like, oh, they should do a crossover event kind of a thing. Because I think Doom Eternal, it's not coming out on Switch, but I think it's supposed to come out on Switch at some point. I want to say.
They just have to port it over.
Yeah, I think there's a port scheduled, I want to say. Like, basically once they've got it out and...
Doom 2016 came out on Switch, so...
Yeah. But I could be wrong, and I could just be thinking of Doom 2016, but...
Sorry,
I mean, there's been a whole nother... there's been a whole bunch of Wolfenstein games, and Doom games on Switch, so I wouldn't be surprised if Bethesda, works on a port, maybe in like a year or two.
Is this Doom Eternal?
This is Doom Eternal.
Yeah, some point this year there is going to be
a game.
Switch edition.
There we go. That'll be, Josh, when we get our essentially
That's
Doom
when
guy.
Doom guy comes to Smash.
But yes, it will be available according to GameStop's website.
Whoa, that would be a cool Smash character.
It's available this year. Sometime it will be launching this year.
So 2020. Okay.
Yes. Because
Nice.
their placeholder date is New Year's Eve 2020 for like any time during that year, but they don't know when yet. So it should be coming out from Bethesda at some point this year.
Nice.
Yep.
I also read today that physical copies of the FF7 remake may not be on time.
Yeah.
But they're still doing like the regular worldwide release, so all digital like purchases will be normal.
Yeah.
But physical copies may not be on time.
I can see that.
Stinks.
I get that.
That's the case. I was reading some stuff. They should give all the people who purchased it a physical or pre-ordered the physical copy, like some digital download code, so you can play it on release.
Nice.
It should,
yeah,
but whether they will or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they can do some sort of like, if they know how much longer it's going to take, like some sort of limited
It's just
access.
logistics at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the other big thing is space on systems. Like that's the reason
any
why.
game. That's every game. That's every game
Yeah,
now.
I know. That's why a lot of people get discs, because like they don't want to download it onto their system.
Well, you still, even when you get disc, you generally have to download a lot of it onto the
Not
SSD
as
anyway.
much. Some
A lot
games,
of them you do.
it depends.
A lot of PS4 games you do.
For
Yeah.
non-Nintendo games, Courtney,
Yeah.
if
No, I
you
know
buy the
that.
physical version, you still have to download day one patches that
Okay,
are
I
obscenely
do
large.
know that.
Yeah.
I do know that. It's like how I know Red Dead took. People had room for Red Dead and Spider-Man on their PS4s. That's about it. But
Unless you buy an external storage device.
I thought you were going to say an extra PS4.
Or yeah.
No, it's cheaper.
This
to buy
one's
a
my Red
terabyte.
Dead PS4. This one's my Spider-Man PS4. This
Pretty
one's
much.
my God
Yeah.
of War PS4.
No, I could fit God of War and like 5 other games on there when I had it on.
Yeah.
My 3 different versions of Street Fighter.
Your 3 different versions of Street Fighter 2?
One was Street Fighter 5, Street Fighter 35th Anniversary, Dragon Ball Fighters.
Yep.
That Arc system, they just released a game. It's called Grand Blue Fantasy. It's a fighter.
Okay.
I haven't played it much. It's just mentioning it because I've seen it a bunch. Looks really cool. Obviously, it's an anime fighter Arc system. That's what they do.
Yeah.
But it's gaining a bit of traction. Looks cool. Obviously, It looks really nice because it's all like hand drawn style. So it looks really cool.
Cool.
I haven't given it a shot yet, just because fighters. I don't know. I have nobody to play fighter with. I'm too afraid to play online because I'm not that good. That's my anxiety about fighters.
And Josh won't play Smash.
No, I don't count.
So, but yeah, so Animal Crossing and Doom Eternal are out this week. Obviously, if you're purchasing physical, try and make as little contact with store employees as possible.
At least be nice to them.
And be nice to them, yes. Pick it up, and then you never have to go outside again. So,
We've got a full Steam library full of games I've never played.
Oh yeah,
that can last me quite probably a lifetime.
Oh yeah,
or close enough to it.
And when in doubt, Josh, you could always start Heroes of the Storm back up again.
I've thought about it, and I don't. The only thing that stopped me is I don't want to level up all those characters I had at like level 20 plus again. I had like half the roster at 20 plus.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just don't want to do that again.
Yep.
Even though leveling's easier now than it was back then, but still, it's a lot.
We also got a Nintendo Indie Showcase yesterday, I believe. So just talking about just a quick rundown. We'll do a quick rundown of like all the games they announced, and then just talk about whatever we thought was a little interesting. So out today! Exclamation point.
Today.
Skyracket, and Exit the Gungeon. Spring 2020 is Summer in Mara. That's right, folks. That game is actually finally releasing. Feria, which is specifically March 2020. Ghost of a Tale. Wingspan Moving Out, which is April 28th. Summer 2020, Blue Fire. Baldo, Cyanide and Happiness, Freakpocalypse. The Last Campfire, Pixel Junk Eden 2. Eldest Souls, Blair Witch, Sky, Superliminal, Bounty Battle, and then just at some point in 2020, I Am Dead, Bark, The Good Life, Dicey Dungeons, and then late 2020, Quantum League.
Winner for best title goes to I Am Dead.
I Am Dead. It's like a cell shaded. You're the curator of a museum.
I remember not many of the games appealed to me, but I just remember that title being like, oh, I like that title.
Yeah. Which one was it? Baldo Baldo's basically Zelda, but it has like a Studio Ghibli art style. So I will definitely take a look at that one. Last Campfire, I think was by I forget the name of the studio, but it's the No Man's Sky studio. I can't remember their name. Pixel Junk Eden 2 is like some kind of rhythm game that has basically like the level builds in reaction to how you play the game. And it's just some kind of bizarre Square Enix type title to it.
That sounds really cool. That sounds similar to Chime.
Maybe.
Which is kind of a fill the board Tetris style. I'm gonna take a look at that one.
It's basically you move around trying to like collect pieces or whatever. But you're not like on a set board or anything. It's like you're moving around in space.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Bark is it's like a side-scrolling shmup with animals and spaceships. It's a little cat ship or dog ship.
Elder Souls was the only one that I saw that was like, oh, it looks kind of cool. It's just fighting bosses. Each level is a different boss, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
What is that, like Fury? Is it the game Fury I'm thinking of? I
Maybe?
can't remember. I want to say Fury. It's just a boss rush game.
Yeah.
Ooh.
If it wasn't for the fact that I had already picked up Ghost of a Tale on Steam, that would have been another pick.
Yeah, that's a good game.
But it's like I just picked it up on Steam, so I'm like, yeah.
You want Metal Gear Solid with medieval mice?
Yes.
Ghost of a Tale. Basically Redwall.
Squeak, 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 squeak. Yeah, Wingspan looks like some kind of weird bird watching card battle game. It was an odd game. If you're a fan of Enter the Gungeon, definitely check out Exit the Gungeon, where it looks like it just ramps everything up to 11 by making it now, instead of like a top-down map that's a bullet hell game, it's now like a side-scrolling one in very cramped spaces, which just sounds like a nightmare for that already.
Yep.
But yeah, I think I want to wait until like reviews come out for Summer and Mara, just because I have been getting Facebook ads for that game for like 3 years now for various Kickstarters. And I kind of want to see what the finished product is going to look like before picking up that game. Heather's saying Wingspan is based on the board game of the same name. Okay, so that I guess that makes a lot more sense as to why it looks like a card game then. So yeah. Yeah, nothing else really super interested me.
Superliminal kinda Superliminal kinda stands out to me. It's a fun, looks like it's a puzzle game, and I like puzzle games.
Yeah. To me it looked almost like just a weird physics simulator game.
Yeah, it's different. Like you have to do like I was reading a little bit about it. Like you got to do like the different force perspectives to be able to complete the puzzles, and there's depth dimensions in it, which are pretty cool. But it seems like a different style of Portal, but not companion cubes and. But you do that. It's that first-person style. It's that puzzle type of game. I'm definitely gonna keep an eye on that, because that looks good.
Although runner-up is The Good Life, where at night everybody turns into cats and dogs. So you spend most of the game playing as like a cat. But the way the dev described it was like it's a, what do you say, debt repayment RPG, and I was just like,
oh, life.
The
Adult
only
life.
I was like, that just immediately turned me off of it, because I was like, look, the only other game that you could possibly qualify as a debt repayment game is Animal Crossing, and like even then you're not really required to do it. So yeah, I think that description was like, like you should have just led with like you play as cats. and left debt repayment out of the picture right now.
Yeah.
But Courtney, Dicey Dungeons might be up your alley. This is an
I
RPG where
looked
all
at
of your characters are dice.
I looked at that, and I want to see how much it goes for, but that's
I think it'll be
definitely
cheap.
something.
It's on
Yeah,
Steam right now. It's been out for a while.
Yeah, I did see that it had been out for a bit.
Yeah.
It definitely, yeah, no, I looked at that. I was like, oh, what's that? Like, immediately looked that one up, and I was like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah.
That's a fun little deck building game. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's just adorable. And it's dice. And it's adorable. Yeah.
And Quantum League almost seems like it's Overwatch, but everybody's Tracer. Where
Tracer.
it's like, so you play 1v, it's an online competitive shooter, but it's 1v1 versus your opponent, and the other people on your team are all clones of you from previous matches.
1v1 mid only.
And that just, it sounds like not fun to me. Also, it ruins the meme of like, I'm already Tracer. So
Perpetuates it.
But yeah, so that was the indie showcase. I think all in all, my big takeaway is probably Baldo. But yeah,
I like
maybe
seeing how many puzzle games are on this.
And maybe Faria, because it's like a card battle game where it also you build terrain as well. So that's just a neat little element to that. But yeah. So, and most of the stuff's coming out in summer. So that's nice.
In summer. Yeah.
And then kind of the big news item this week is yesterday we got the Explorer's Guide to Wildemount.
Yeah, we did.
Now, but before we delve into the book, friend of the podcast, Heather, who's in the chat, sent me, there's a Polygon article talking about how Roll20, Critical Role and D&D published, I think it's one of the adventures in the book.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically released it online for free on Roll20.
Yep.
As a way for people to have something to do.
Yeah, that's one awesome thing I'm seeing is like so many people saying, let's jump onto Roll20. Like, we're all home for a couple weeks right now. Let's play some D&D.
Yeah. And
this was a perfectly crafted like release.
The book itself includes like 6 adventures, like 6 entry-level adventures. Also, I went through and noted just the sheer number of reprinted races that are in the book. And it's like they basically reprinted almost every race that was not in the player's handbook that has been printed. So going through really quickly, Pallid Elves, Sea Elves, Lotus Den Halflings, Aarakocras, all 3 varieties of Aasimar, Drakenblood Draconians, Dragonborn, Ravenite Dragonborn, Furbolgs, the 4 Ganassi types, Goblins, Bugbear, Hobgoblins, Goliaths, Kenku, Orcs, Tabaxi, and Tortles are all printed in this book.
Yeah.
Which, that kind of surprised me.
A lot of races.
That is a lot.
How about a little more?
Yeah.
Especially since, like, so many of them were, like, one-offs or in Volos. It was kind of nice to see Wizards, like, reprint them. Sadly, no kobolds. So no Spurt there. Which kind of surprised me. But yeah. So we got the plethora of stuff like that. The 3 subclasses that we've talked about before, the Graviturgist, Chronologist, and what's the fighter one called? Echo Fighter, I think. But it's
I haven't
basically
gotten that far.
it's all of these classes have to deal with dunamancy, which is one of the things that Matt Mercer wanted to incorporate as like one of the main elements of things that get brought into D&D with Wildemount. And so the fighter subclass is basically you summon echoes of yourself from alternate realities.
Oh, yeah, that thing.
That allow you to do like tactical advantages on the battlefield, and like you can consume them to like block attacks and stuff like that. Whereas the Chronologist is just time mage, and the Graviturgist is just gravity mage. And some of those spells get really, really crazy. Especially the 9th level spells.
I'm sure.
Oh yeah. The 9th level time spell that is included.
Zawado!
It deals a massive amount of necrotic damage as like you just wither the target, and if they survive, also puts them 30 days till the end of their natural lifespan. Like it ages them to that point. And it's like a curse, so that it can be lifted by greater restoration or wish. But those are the only ways to reverse that process. And it's just like, oh man. Like just go around just like aging all your enemies. Because the thing to note is that because it advances the target's age to basically its natural lifespan, it would die of old age, which means that it couldn't be resurrected or raised or anything like that.
Oh.
Yeah. If you die of old age, you can't be resurrected.
I mean, you could do that. What? Yeah, 1 9th level per day, right?
I think so. Yeah. Maybe 2 tops. But yeah.
Wow.
As far as the gravity one, I can't remember what it is. But there's like the 8th level one is like you basically summon a black hole. Or like you like create an orb of annihilation that just like sucks people into it. Let's see. Sources, source books. Wildemount.
That's wow.
I'm glad. I mean, I'm into the new class. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
New subclasses, whatever they are.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So Echo Knight, Chronergy magic, and Graviturgy magic. Yeah.
Gravedigger, Chrono Trigger, and Echo the Dolphin. Got it.
Bingo.
Yep. Sure.
Apparently,
we're
one of
this.
Scanlan's spells from Campaign 1 made it into the book, Wrist Pocket.
Wrist Pocket?
Which is, you flick your wrist, causing one object in your hand to vanish, which only you can be holding and weigh no more than 5 pounds, is put into an extra dimensional space. Until the spell ends, you can use your action to summon the object to your free hand, and you can use your action to return the object to the extra dimensional space. Is a 2nd level spell. Its casting time is an action. It can be cast as a ritual, and it lasts an hour. Requires concentration. So I think it's a nice little trickery type thing. Useful for smuggling. Let's see, what do we have here? Ravenous Void.
If you got a bunch of spice, you gotta hide that spice.
You know,
gotta hide the spice.
There was an item in 3rd edition. It was called Gloves of Storing that did the same thing, but the weight limit was 20 pounds.
Whoa.
It was, you could hold a single item of up to 20 pounds.
Spice must flow.
And what it did was like it technically, like, it didn't store it in extra dimensional space. It like shrunk it down so that it was infinitesimally small in the glove. So me being me was like, oh well, how much? It's like, we know how much like a medium-sized person generally weighs. How much does a medium-sized skeleton weigh? And like, I made a villain that was a necromancer that had 2 of these gloves, and stored skeletal minions in the gloves and would just be like, "Mah, skeletons!" and like would throw skeletons out at people.
Love
That's
it.
beautiful.
Yep.
That is absolutely gorgeous.
So yeah. So Ravenous Sphere, this is the 9th level gravity spell. So 20-foot radius sphere. For the spell's duration, the sphere and any space within 100 feet of it are difficult terrain. Non-magical objects fully inside the sphere are destroyed if they aren't being worn or carried. Unsecured objects within 100 feet are pulled toward it, ending in an unoccupied space as close to the center of the sphere as possible. Any creature that starts its turn within 100 feet must succeed on a strength save or be pulled. Creatures that enter the sphere for the first time on a turn or start its turn take 5d10 force and are restrained until no longer in it. If the sphere is in the air, the restrained creature hovers inside the sphere. A creature can make a strength check to try and escape. A creature reduced to 0 hit points by the sphere is annihilated, along with any non-magical items it is wearing or carrying.
Wow.
Concentration lasts a minute.
Damn.
And you can cast it up to 1,000 feet away.
That's very far.
Yeah.
Oh.
But it's, you know, it's
Yay.
a ninth level spell.
Yeah.
There's also Reality Break is another spell where it's just you just shatter reality and doing some kind of thing. Like you just summon the vacuum of deep space or a wormhole or a rift that damages people that step into it or a vision of the far realm.
Okay.
It's also random.
Oh.
Yep, because that's a thing. Okay. Mm-hmm.
You cast it on a creature though. So you target a creature and they're warped through broken realities.
Okay.
Yeah, and it deals a whole bunch of damage, regardless of what thing it is. So yeah, but it goes all the way down to cantrips, all the way up to 9th level. It also gives a lot of background information on how the deities fit into Exandria. It also gives background information on some of like Archfey and fiends and like minor celestials and stuff that are kind of major players. Basically, so that way, like warlocks and other folks that might not necessarily have a connection to a deity, but like some kind of otherworldly being. Work out. Strangely enough, all of those minor players like can grant warlock pacts, but also can grant clerical domains. So Matt included both in each of those. The Tal'Dorei Council is mentioned, but its members are not specified in the book. So my hope was that like Matt was gonna like troll everybody until the book came out and then be like, here's who's on the Tal'Dorei Council. But
no, because everybody's asked too much, so they have to keep replacing people on the council.
I don't know what this means.
So basically in campaign, it's been a running gag of Matt mentioned like the Tal'Dorei Council probably like 10 episodes ago or whatever when Allura showed up.
The first campaign, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, Allura showed up in campaign 2 and then talked about the Tal'Dorei Council and everybody like flipped out.
Who's on
and
the
everybody
Tal'Dorei
wants
Council?
And all the players want to know.
I think I watched that.
And Matt said after a little while, every time you ask that question, one of them dies.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we also got information on various factions and regions, as well as
food.
Well, I'm getting there.
With the regions.
There's like
that's
a
right.
gazetteer. But one of the other things that Matt wanted to introduce is like a chronicle, which is basically like we've seen it before in like the Xanathar's Guide of like building a character backstory. But this is a way to it's like more ingrained into the campaign setting. So it does things like where based on your background and the region you're from, gives you a certain number of rivals and allies, as well as, you know, perhaps like a prolific event. And depending on which rivals and allies you end up with, like that might spawn more prolific events, which in turn might spawn more rivals and allies. So it's a way to like really kind of, and it's all on tables and everything. So like you can either pick or, you know, roll the dice and see. And sort of the prolific events, you know, may even end up with things that like, obviously you would work with your DM, but like you start with a magic item or you start with an extra skill or something like that. Or it might be an explanation of a skill that you do have. So I know one of them's like you basically start with a horse and a saddle and proficiency in animal handling. Whereas another one's like you contracted some sort of horrible disease and a monk of the Cobalt Soul basically found you and like helped try to nurse you back to health. And they were unable to do so, but what they did was they gave you it was a Periapt of Health to help suppress the disease's
those
effects.
are great. Those are great. May loves
So-
hers.
So you're not cured, but for as long as you have that necklace on you, you're not affected by the disease.
Yeah, it's you're in remission.
Yeah. They do talk about basically there are different types of games that you can run, like a wartime game with this campaign setting. You can set it, you know, before the war so that it's more of like a Cold War espionage type game, or you can pick one of the regions that's like totally separate and not worry about this like dynasty empire conflict. So yeah.
Is there like a Dynasty Warriors type setting where you just fight thousands of troops at once, taking them out no problem? As one person?
They did talk about how D&D is like not built very well to handle combat like that.
It's not.
But let's see. It does it how to run a war campaign.
War.
Break down your mass combat into manageable chunks.
Yeah.
Have the major battle proceed in waves that guide the characters from one cinematic encounter to another. Yeah, basically Dynasty Warriors. I would say here's so a little DM's tip is what you could do is and I don't know if they updated it for 5th edition, but I think they had rules for it in like 3rd and 4th, where you take the swarm rules and you actually update them to like medium-sized creatures, and it's basically a mob. And what it does is it's treated as like a large-sized swarm of medium-sized creatures, and they act like one creature kind of a thing. So that way, like, instead of having to run 20 separate, soldiers, you run essentially one big mass of soldiers. And because they follow the same rules for swarms, like, they can crowd other people's spaces and stuff like that.
If I remember correctly, Mark Sherlock Humes on High Rollers, their first campaign, did a lot of, because there was a huge big battle at the end, and he ran it as a huge big bunch of skill checks.
Yeah, that's one way
I
to
mean,
do it.
you could do that too.
Of like, okay, well, what are you doing in this hour? Are you and it was a really good system because it was like, okay, what are you going to be doing for the next hour? Okay, if you do this, you will, if you do 3 actions in a row, like, you will gain a point of exhaustion from working for 3 straight hours fighting or whatever it may be. And I really liked how he did that, but it did make it a little bit difficult for people who really like heavy combat.
Yeah.
I personally prefer more RP, so I really liked how he did it with the skill challenge, but
Depends. You gotta get a feel. It's 2 things. One, it's what
yeah.
as a DM you gotta consider what your group would want to do and what you've in getting and knowing them and having a feel for what they'd like. 2, it's what you're comfortable running.
Yep.
You like knowing yourself and your own abilities as DM and like the stress of prepping and like you got to remember if what you're doing, you got to keep track of all of that in your mind, and you kind of got to keep track of the players.
Yep.
Which are way more dynamic than what you have planned. So
like,
trying to on the fly account for what players are going to do that you weren't expecting them to do because it doesn't necessarily fit in your plan that you had.
What are they going to pull out of their pockets? You know,
So like you may have this whole system ready to go and like, I've perfected it and the math works out perfectly. And then players do some wild stuff and just tear paper, whatever. We're just good. We're doing it live, which is fine. That's fine too. Because it creates some interesting situations that you weren't expecting and allows for your imagination to take things to a place that you weren't expecting, and maybe you're pleasantly surprised that it is taking you to. And maybe it allows you to be a little bit, for me, usually allows me to be more twisted in what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Which is fun. Also, I know if you're familiar with Matt Colville, he, I think, published some large-scale battle rules for 5e somewhere.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of this comes
if
down
you like
to,
really
like,
want to like
so
do
many...
nitty-gritty, I want to run like armies, not just I don't want to be an individual in army. My players are like captains of platoons and legions and moving armies around the battlefield. There's that too.
Yeah.
Again, I think, know what your players would like to do.
And I think that this is great to have more rules about what to do.
I don't know about more rules, but
but different ways to
different systems for sure.
Yeah, we've just talked about different systems of how to do it.
Yeah.
So now there's another system that we can kind of take in and utilize.
And there's others out there. You could look.
Yeah.
Go Google it.
Yeah.
Like if you Google large scale battle D&D, if you don't know what to do, and there's plenty of forums and people giving advice and
I think since D&D has a certain amount of so I mean to use like an artistic term, right? There would be a certain amount of
paint,
sort of abstraction that goes on. So at least like especially with 5th edition, right? Where it focuses a little bit more on being a game as opposed to like being a one-to-one representation of every possible thing in reality. You know, I think it might work best if you're going to run a large-scale combat to look at other strategy games. So look at things like Fire Emblem, look at either Advance Wars, Wargroove, other, turn-based strategy games like that where you're controlling units around. Something like that. Even looking at like Warcraft and StarCraft.
StarCraft would be good.
Age of Empires.
Age of Empires, where,
Total War series. The Total War series would be really good.
And just that, having a creature be, and this kind of goes into like the mob/swarm idea, right? Is like, if you're going to move units around on the battlefield, is like, in those games, you pick like a bunch of units and you send them as a group. And it often treats them as like one creature, quote unquote. So doing that allows you to keep the feeling of like having a lot of units doing something without having to, again, micromanage every single little thing. But if you want to make a dramatic moment, you can then like zoom in to what's happening. And then, sort of zoom back out.
That's why I'm saying, like, maybe one player is the captain or commander of a platoon of whatever, 30 or 50 or whatever. And that group of 50 moves as a unit and has its own unit stat, and it moves around the battlefield. And then maybe in the pitch of battle, we can zoom in and say, okay, and maybe you as an individual, like captain or commander, can have a bigger sway on that unit versus unit battle, Dynasty Warrior style, right? So like maybe your individual power can have a bigger effect on that large clash because you're such a powerful.
I was thinking Fire Emblem Three Houses, and say every player basically like gets to pick their own little army that might give them like an extra action that they can do or something.
That's not a bad idea either.
And gives them like some kind of buff, which that would certainly, like, you could even just represent that like basically using the same sort of mechanics as like a magic item would, but then extrapolating it out to being like a or maybe it's just again, if you're going to use this like mob swarm rule or whatever, let them treat it as like a minion that player has, that give that control over to the player to be like, okay, as if it were like a ranger's pet or a warlock's familiar or something. It's just this is my battalion.
Yep.
And they're gonna push carts full of explosives into people. That's what they do.
I mean, these things happen in warfare.
That is the best close range AoE in Fire Emblem you get for most of the game. Just don't make the mistake that the developers did for Fire Emblem and give somebody Stride, because that was way overpowered and easily the best battalion in the game. Because it gives all the units in that giant area +2 movement.
It's a lot.
That is a lot. But yeah, as far as so for me personally, out of this book, I think the Chronicle thing is like the biggest takeaway, and something that I might want to incorporate for Jamora, is thinking about like what region you come from and how that affects like what context you might have. But in that section, it also talks about like what you're.
So we wouldn't have times where May's like, I don't really know where I'm from. Sean, we need to talk about that off stream.
No, May knows where. So it's where she grew up.
Yes.
Which is known.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm trying to find where that is. Oh, there's also rules for Vestiges of Divergence, as well as Arms of the Betrayers, which are basically evil vestiges. So they have stuff like Tharizdun's Blade of Broken Mirrors. Also, all of the Arms of the Betrayers are basically fueled by the soul of an archfiend. So they're all intelligent evil weapons housing the spirit of a specific fiend.
Cool.
So, yeah, the Blade of Broken Mirrors is like a Glabrezu named Ragazu that just seeks to cause chaos. There's an Ultraloth named Syria that lives in Grumsh's Warhammer. Or, I'm sorry, Torog's Warhammer. There's Marilith in Zahir's Whip. All stuff like that.
Nice.
So yeah, and a bunch of other like really neat minor magic items that are all cool. One of which being this like. So if you've ever seen the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, where the ranger has the bow that like pulls back and it's got the magical bowstring and fires magic arrows. There's a hammer version of this from Paylor. So it's a warhammer that gets so or rather, so you know how you have like the sunblade where it has a blade of light. This is essentially a sun hammer. So
Cool.
It's pretty rad. I gotta say.
Wait. Would that make it a finesse weapon because it's light?
No, it does not make it a finesse weapon.
Oh, okay.
But what it does, it deals radiant damage. Deals extra radiant damage to undead. Yeah. You can cast sunbeam with it.
Oh.
And it radiates daylight, not just bright light, but daylight.
Oh.
So yeah. But it's got other, you know, nifty little items like that. Some stuff that we've seen in Critical Role, so like the Nightfall Pearl, which is what the Dynasty uses to like create a 10-mile radius of nighttime.
Oh yeah. That's cool.
Let's see. There's a spell bottle, which like you can use it to like if somebody casts a spell at you, you can use it to counter and then absorb that spell into the bottle to cast it later.
That's pretty cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it basically functions the rules for counterspell. And then if the spell's above 5th level, it's just countered instead of being absorbed.
Cool.
But yeah. So, it also, when there is a little section that basically talks about like when this campaign setting is set, and it talks about how it's set kind of during the events of campaign 2, but like at a certain point, you know, the Mighty Nine's adventures branch off in one direction and encourages people to like seek out, make their own canon and everything. Because I think that was kind of a concern among a lot of folks as to how that works.
I was worried.
Oh, this one, I was talking about this with you last night, Courtney, but Josh, there is so there's an amulet, and while you wear this amulet, it's once per day. When you drink a pint of beer, ale, mead, or wine, you regain 4d4 plus 4 hit points.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Good
want
for
that
dwarves.
in real life so
Yes.
bad.
So it's like basically, it's an amulet that once per day, you turn like a pint of alcohol into not a greater, whatever, like the next step up from basic, like a lesser healing potion, which is pretty neat.
So, you know, you drink a whole big thing of Pedialyte or their sort of electrolyte solution, and heal.
So yeah,
instead of, but it tastes like alcohol. I think that's cool.
Yeah. So some nifty items like that. And again, a whole collection of adventures, whole collection of monsters. Some that we've seen in Critical Role Campaign 2. Some that we haven't. Some that we should be thankful that we haven't. But some notable ones are the Horizon-back tortoises, which are the giant tortoises in Jorhas that like the goblins live on top of. The Devil Toad from like episode 1.
Yeah.
Moorbounders. A Sea Fury, which was the creepy thing that they fought in the undersea cavern.
Oh, okay.
And Blood Hunters. Just a generic NPC stat block for Blood Hunters. Little sad that they opted not to like use artwork for Mollymock in there. I think that would have been just a nice little touch. Instead, they used the generic art for the Blood Hunter. Whole bunch of maps by Devin Rue. So all the maps are lovely.
Go Devin Rue.
So yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. 4 adventures, not 6.
Okay. I knew there was
Tide
an amount of them.
And I believe it's 1 per region. So there's 4 regions in Wildemount. So yeah. Yeah, all in all, it is jam-packed with a whole bunch of stuff, even if you're not a fan of Critical Role. I mean, I would say, if you're not a fan of Critical Role, the book's worth it for just the number of races that you can get. There's also, it's listed kind of after the races, but it's like, it's weird in that it's a supernatural gift, which is basically to make you a revenant. Without being like the revenant race from Unearthed Arcana. Called the Hollow One. So yeah, basically it's you register as undead, you don't age, you can frighten people, and when you make a death save roll of 16 or higher, you regain a hit point. So it makes it easier to like pop back up from being dead. So yeah. Yeah. So obviously, it's available on D&D Beyond right now, as well as the other digital outlets. If you are able to pick it up from a local friendly gaming store, the cast and crew of Critical Role has been encouraging people to do that.
Check with your local gaming stores. Many of them are closed right now, but a good amount are also offering different curbside pickups. I know specifically Pandemonium Books and Games in Boston area is doing delivery. So call your game store or go on their Facebook, something, if you want to be able to get a copy of this. A lot of them are being able to reach out if you need the hookup. So, sorry, I needed to throw that in there.
Yeah, so for us in the Berkshires, unfortunately, Purple Dragon is temporarily closed until April 1st. So basically, my plan is to wait until it opens back up and then pick it up then. But yeah, just something to think about, especially with so many local businesses will be hurting.
Really struggling.
So, yeah. And yeah, that kind of wraps up our news for the week. So it's time to delve into what's going on with 8-Bit Adventures. So first up, this week, Monday specifically, marks our second adoptiversary for our dearest fluffy boy, Chief Dog Officer Monty.
Yay!
So there is a adoptiversary comic up on the Patreon right now for patrons, for the Speedy and Monty comic this week. And then I did manage to get a new 8-Bit Adventures comic out.
Yay!
Oh, and we have a Monty summoning redeemed in chat.
Yay!
So I will be right back as I go fetch my dog. Talk amongst yourselves, people.
Did they speak the incantation?
Yes. They said gold redeemed.
Did they sacrifice the other dog that you need to summon this one?
No, because the gold was worth however many points it was worth. If it had been under the amount, they would have had to do the sacrifice as well.
Soul for a soul, equivalent exchange. You ever watch Full Metal?
I understand, but this is only a visit. This isn't a this isn't a complete resurgence. You know.
Mm.
Mm. Sorry, my throat is something terribly dry right now. But
You drink more water.
I'm trying. There's my puppy.
Oh.
Oh, there's my boy. Yay. Oh, yay.
The words have been spoken.
Yay.
The sacrifice has been made.
Yes. He's the best boy. Yes, he is.
Yeah,
Yes,
this
he
sounds
is.
great for podcast listeners, but so
Sorry, I'm just very excited. Monty's on screen. I haven't seen him all week.
Oh.
I haven't
there we
seen
go.
him in over a week, actually.
You saw him an hour ago.
Like an hour ago. Okay. And
Physically,
now-
I have not seen him.
You want to stay here,
Since
puppy?
Thursday.
You can stay here.
So almost a week.
Ah. There we go.
I have not physically held that little dog in my arm for
So
almost a week.
for podcast listeners who are unaware, so Monty is our dog, is Megan's and my dog. He is 11 years old, though you wouldn't know it. He is a 13-pound Maltese West Highland Terrier mix. And he is in a very, very dire need of a grooming right now.
He's my fluffy boy.
Yes. So Courtney normally comes by several times a week to let him out, but since Megan and I are both working from home at the moment, she doesn't need to do that, and Courtney can't really stop by due to all these things happening in the world right now.
Yeah,
and
'cause
so
Courtney
she is
works
very
at a high risk job, and so
she's very dog deprived.
I am.
So, but yeah. Oh, and are you gonna go? There he goes. Okay. So, yes, to celebrate a adoptiversary comic for Monty this week,
Yay.
and oh, you know what I can do? Maybe I'll even put up a special discount in the shop for Monty related merchandise, which I think is basically the one shirt. But yeah,
It's a good
So-
shirt, though. It's the best shirt about the best investigator ever.
yeah. Be on the lookout for information on that on Facebook. Yeah, I'll say it we'll do a 10% discount on the Sir Munt's shirt with the code Monty.
There we
And
go.
we'll have that run through the end of the month.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Get yourself a Monty shirt. A Sir
Yes.
Munt's shirt.
Sir Munt's. So yeah. In kind of sad news, so Berkshire Bites, obviously, kind of a little difficult to go out to places and talk about them when places are closed. So at least for the time being, it's going to go on a little bit of a hiatus. Kind of toward the end of the month, if Megan and I decide that there are other avenues that we can do to continue doing the podcast during this time,
DoorDash.
we might.
It's
It was also more of the fact that we would have recorded it this week, and
Yeah.
we just didn't have time between coming back from vacation and then having to deal with everything over the weekend. But yeah. I don't know right off basically at the moment. It's still kind of in a state of flux. We've talked about various things. It also is basically up to us to kind of figure out like if it's right now worth putting in the effort when there's so much other things going on that we have to keep track of.
Yeah.
Since everything is chaos right now. But rest assured, we will keep everybody posted if we are able to figure something out and have the time and energy to do so. So we haven't forgotten about it, and we're not just letting it die. It's just trying to figure stuff out.
It's the logistics in all of this.
Yeah. It's also especially so with my pay basically being slightly cut, we're looking to try and not order out as much as we can. So that's another issue with it as well. And then some slight stream schedule changes. Basically, with no new Critical Role shows happening, what this means is you're going to get a lot more Chrono Trigger Thursday night or tomorrow night. Since Matt Mercer can't stop me. So just
I mean, unless he physically wants to come to the Berkshires and like.
In which case, I will respectfully tell him to not just come in my house to tell him to stop me from playing Chrono Trigger. Like, there's better uses of his time. So, what this means is that like that stream will start. So 8-Bit Adventures Plays Chrono Trigger will start at 8 p.m. and it will just continue until whenever, instead of kind of having a hard stop at 9:30. And then on Saturday, that stream will start an hour earlier, also at 8.
Cool.
Because I will not be starting Animal Crossing until that stream, so everybody will get to see it from day one.
There we
for
go.
Me. So we're all in this together. So yeah.
Nope. Hold on
very
a second.
Very hard not to.
I'm trying to repress that song right now. Considering I had just finished High School Musical, the series. Yeah.
So, but basically, until Critical Role decides to do new episodes again, we may see more extended streams on my channel. So.
No, that's terrible.
Yeah, which I mean, it just means more art and more games for y'all. So.
And this Friday,
yes, Tales of
Dancer.
Jamora Leaf Dancer comes back.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh, that's another thing that I wanted to mention. Due to everything going on with COVID-19.
Yes.
Since I get tired of
You said it.
Since I get tired of hearing the word coronavirus, so I've been like in all my communications, I've been calling it COVID-19. So unfortunately, the TV studio is unavailable to us. Tales of Jamora, when it does return, on April 3rd, will at least temporarily be online. So we'll be kind of playing over Discord, doing Theater of the Mind still. But we are still putting out a game for you guys because we need to play D&D.
Need to play.
Things need to loot needs to be acquired, and Kraken spawn need to get punched and punted.
Flowers need to be made.
And then trampled.
Oh, that would be very, very, very sad if you actually trampled the flowers where I...
Yeah, so you know how in like Xanathar's guide it has like complications as part of every downtime activity?
Yep.
Like anything that May picks, just complication is Jacobin.
So I just figured out what I want to do while on my downtime is just try to thwart.
Complicating other people's downtime.
Just Maze.
He's
just gonna cock block me the entire time. Is that what I'm getting here?
Maybe, I don't know.
Exactly what I feel like Jacobin is gonna do to me.
No, that's not for real. I have a kind of idea what Jacobin's doing.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
I'm like, wait a minute, you're just figuring that out?
Yeah, so just so
John.
when Tales of Jamora returns, and you see us all online and on Discord, don't panic.
No,
It's
we're supposed to be there.
yeah, it's just temporary thing.
Panic
And
100.
Well, because we have a little bit of time.
Everything's gone wrong.
panic at the disco, not at home. So,
Not chime in.
Nope. Nope.
And yeah, that pretty much wraps up what's going on with 8-Bit Adventures.
Yeah.
So, why don't we do a really quick quest log, shall we?
Yeah.
Courtney, what sort of Stardew Valley update do you have for us this week?
I'm trying to think of what I actually got done.
You finally decide to murder everybody in the town?
Unless you've done something that's not Stardew Valley.
No, I have not.
I hear you saw a movie that made you cry.
I did.
That's
that
every
I
movie
did
she
do.
watches.
Yeah. No. So last Thursday, my mom and I went to go see Onward. Now for long-term listeners, you know that Courtney has daddy issues to begin with. And I lost my father at a young age, and so this movie, I was already going into it knowing I would need tissues. There was more crying than when Courtney watches Star Wars. There was ugly crying, there was sobbing. I was trying very hard not to scare the children in the row in front of me with my crying. That being said, oh my gosh, it's an amazing, amazing story of two brothers, this wonderful quest to finish the spell to bring their dad back for 24 hours. And I think that I'm very, 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 very glad that made this. It hit some notes that I didn't even know needed to still be played with my own grief, everything. That being said, I'm legitimately not sure how I feel about 10 watching this movie. Because right until then, like literally this is coming from Courtney's psych education and everything. Like the idea of death is something that is so profound and so unattainable for some children to grasp. They reach. I really, really, really feel like this could really blur the lines. And I imagine that there will be a lot of questions for children seeing this movie, and especially for any children who have somebody.
Insofar as confusing them about death, or what? What do you mean?
No, a lot of, according to what I have been taught, children of a certain developmental age, usually under 8, it's a very magical thinking. It's, you go up to heaven and like it's an actual place. Oh, can we go visit grandma in heaven? That kind of thing. And it's that very different blurs of reality. With the magical thinking and non-concrete everything. And so it's a very, very, very emotional. And see it with a loved one. Like if you have had, a history of losing somebody, see it with a loved one. I went and I told my mother, and we were sobbing. And as much as I love my friends, I would not have wanted to see it with any of you. Um, it's definitely like moms and daughters going to see Brave together. But yeah, it was a very emotionally, but cathartic in that way as well. But I definitely suggest, if you are a parent who is able, do a little bit of research on the full topics, everything covered, because kiddos have questions, and that's not something that you don't want to have answers for.
It's literally your job as a parent to educate your child.
Yes, and sometimes you don't need a making them. You don't need to be bringing up something sometimes in a movie. Had I seen this movie 10 years ago, I would not have been ready. And I don't really, no, I was not doing well at that time. Or had I seen this movie just as, a 10-year-old, I would not have fared as well as I have. So, yeah. That's really what I've been doing, was digesting all of that. So,
Yep.
And then playing a little bit of Stardew. I think I started.
I wanted to bring it up since the likelihood of the rest of us going to see that movie now is probably pretty slim.
Yeah, I have
It was
actually
slim
seen.
before.
I have actually seen that some movie theaters and other, or like production houses things.
Right, some production houses are releasing stuff to streaming now.
Yeah.
Universal.
Yep. Universal and NBC, I think.
I think I saw.
I don't know.
Or Paramount, maybe.
I don't know. I think it was Paramount.
It was two of them. One of them being Universal. And I know people have been trying to get Disney to push Disney to do it since they have the service set up now. But I know Frozen 2 just recently hit Disney Plus, and that feels like...
Yeah, that did. Actually, wait a minute. Yeah, that totally did too. I totally went through and watched that as well.
That feels like it happened pretty quickly, although...
It did. It happened 3 months early.
Oh, okay.
From when it was supposed to be on Disney Plus.
I see. Okay.
Because it's already came out a few weeks ago on DVD, but it was supposed to wait even longer to come out on there. So yes, that did come out early.
Okay. So yeah. Josh.
Oh, hi.
Oh, hi.
It's me, your boy, Josh. So I finished up playing Ys 8 yesterday afternoon. Yeah, yesterday afternoon I finished up Ys 8. That game's really good. A little weeb-ish at times, but that's all right. The gameplay is one of the more probably the most fun action RPG I've played. It's really smooth. It just feels good all the time when you're playing it. So that carried it for me, most of the game, because the story's there, but it's nothing like crazy. It's not like Xenoblade ending, like blowing your mind shenanigans, dropping crazy philosophy on you. I mean, it gets definitely the last quarter of the game is much more interesting, and you kind of learn more about this like mysterious woman who joined your party from the past. It exists in the past and in your present at the same time, and it gets a little weird and interesting. So at a couple points I was like, this is kind of Xeno territory storytelling.
Yeah.
So it just didn't get bonkers, but it was fine. I mean, it's fun. You explore the island, you find people who are castaways, you get them to join your village, you're upgrading weapons, you're gathering stuff on the island, like you're fishing, you're just having fun using your abilities in combat and switching characters, and all the characters are like unique in personality and they're voiced well. So I have nothing but great things to say about that game. It was a lot of fun, and I'm super glad I kind of dipped my toe into that series for the first time, because now I'm interested in playing more Ys games as they come out. I don't think any of the older ones, because I don't think I can get past just the older graphics, and like they're all top down, almost like Secret of Mana style, I guess.
Okay.
So like more top down action RPG in that old style, or isometric even, as they got newer in like the 2000s. But any like new 3D ones like this that come out, I'll definitely play for sure. A lot of fun. And then after that, I wasn't sure what I wanted to play. I had thought I was going to play Persona 4 Golden on my Vita, just because I'd never played it before. But then, I don't know. I just, for whatever reason, I wanted to play Final Fantasy X.
For whatever reason, eh?
Belts everywhere.
Yeah. All of the belts.
I don't know. I just...
Yeah.
No, I mean, Lulu, of course. Just because Lulu. No, I think... I've had this conversation with a few people over the last couple of days, and people who've come to my stream and chatted with me, and like my favorite Final Fantasy switches all the time. It's usually 7, and that's mostly a nostalgia thing because it was my first, and it will always be my first, and it introduced me really to RPGs in general. And I like the game as well. But sometimes it's Final Fantasy VIII. Some like more recently, I'm thinking maybe 10's actually got the best story. I think it has the most coherent story probably out of all of them. And then like it just goes back and forth. Like sometimes it's Final Fantasy Tactics, but I haven't played this game since I was 16, 17, maybe. I was like a sophomore, maybe junior in high school. So I've watched a couple people stream it, but like I only remember the general gist of the whole story. I don't remember a lot of the details. I don't remember like the gameplay that much. I mean, I kind of do, but I just wanted to experience it again. And I wanted to see it in full HD glory. I wanted to put all the mods that I could to like high res character models for your main party, and up-resing even the NPCs, even though they still kind of look like PS2 characters. You can tell it's low poly, but whatever.
Okay, so you have been using graphical mods.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. I was not aware of that, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this looks really good for a game from 2000." Like,
well, they re-released it in 2015 with HD as an HD remake. So they basically just up-resed it all to like 1080. That being said, the modding community for Final Fantasy games that come out on PC is pretty big. That I'm waiting on Final Fantasy VIII Remaster to get fully modded before I play that again. But like, all 4K, and I didn't do the 8K, but they got 8K models for all the main parties. Yeah, I'm like 4K is fine. They up-resed all the like NPCs, monsters, and everything just to just so they don't look as crappy. I mean, you can tell the big difference when you see a main character on the screen and an NPC, and you can see in the face the poly count is so different. But it's little things you can do. Like, so I did that. Like just some UI, a couple minor UI mods to make it like look a little more clean. But like, I just wanted to experience the game again and experience it just be visually nicer, because it was already a visually stunning game for 2001 when it originally came out, because it was such a jump from PS1 Final Fantasies, because you guys play Final Fantasy IX, so going from that up to Final Fantasy X, which was like full 3D. This was the first one that was fully voice acted, and you can definitely tell this is one of the earlier games that did full on voice acting, because it's hit or miss with a lot of misses. Which is part of the charm, I will say, of this game. I think part of the charm is kind of the goofy.
We're in agreement that what's his name, that merchant, best voice acting in the entire game. Owaka, best voice acting in the entire game.
That guy. I'm like, this. I said it to you, I'm like, this dude's having a lot of fun hamming it up with a British accent now.
Yep,
he's just really having a lot of fun. So like that's fine. So I'm like, oh, this I can tell whoever was doing this knew, like, was tongue in cheek about it somewhat, and that's fine. So that's part of the charm of the game, and it's just nice to kind of go through the story, because I do think this has one of the better casts of characters of all the Final Fantasies, and it does one of the better jobs of just developing the personalities of the main cast. And you, particularly with the ending being what the ending is, I'm not going to spoil it, but Courtney probably remembers that it lands, the ending lands pretty hard because of the emotional build up to it with all of the characters. Which I played Final Fantasy Type 0 last week. I'll say that game did not do a good job of developing the characters, and the ending they wanted to hit super emotionally didn't hit as hard because you didn't feel like you knew the characters very well.
Oh, that's
it was still a good ending. It's just like I just was looking through it and seeing past it and seeing that this could have been executed really, really well if you would. I mean, again, that game was originally a PSP game, but like if they did this type of ending with like 3 houses where like all the characters interact with each other all the time and you have lots of opportunities to see people's personalities.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I'll do a spoiler here because I don't think you guys will ever play Type 0.
Probably.
It's like 3 houses, but all the kids die at the end. And like they want it to be really emotional, but you never get a chance to really get to see all the like kids in your class kind of be themselves, except for one tiny scene right before the end where like one of the kids has a vision or a memory of their classroom and you kind of see all the kids interacting with each other in a natural way. But I'm like, oh man, if they did little scenes like this throughout the game, like this ending would have been so much better. But that being said,
and it's especially in stark contrast with Fire Emblem,
right?
Where like it doesn't do that necessarily with your class unless you're kind of bad at playing the game on hardcore mode. But like, so spoilers, people, that if you haven't played 3 houses yet or whatever.
Or
Heather, if you're still in the chat, go walk away. But basically, like in the later half of the game, like you do have to make hard decisions like that, and it's like there will be times when, you got to kill off, a person that like you didn't recruit.
Yep.
Prior to the time skip.
I remember that first happened to me. I was like, what? I was like, I don't want to.
Oh no!
At all.
I was like, oh no, I've made.
I was legitimately glad when you guys told me that would have to happen, and I was like, wait. In my head, I was like.
That's why second playthrough, I was like, I'm going to recruit everybody.
Yeah, that's why I was like,
nobody's dying on my watch.
But after when I realized, I'm like, well, I'm dedicated to playing this. What in my head is canon now. If I'm this class, I'm only this class. I'm not recruiting anybody from outside. And if we're killing off everybody, Edelgard and Dimitri, we're killing
absolute monster. Absolute monster.
You got to get in Edelgard Dimitri's headspace and be like. I never had the opportunity to get in Claude, so I always had to be like the hard ass.
But Claude's is the best one.
It's an interesting one. I will go back someday and play that playthrough.
It's so weird that so minor spoiler, but like Claude's ends up with like what's probably the true ending, given that he gets like essentially 2 more chapters after everybody else.
I just thought it was so weird that, again, we're in kind of spoiler theory. I'm not going to be specific, but he gets more lore and world building in his story than, surprisingly, Edelgard. And Edelgard's directly related to all of it, which surprises me. Like, Edelgard's right in, like, drawn into all of that, and you don't hear much. Like, they talk about it a lot, and, like, those who crawl in the dark or whatever, but, like, you never deal with it. Whereas Claude's is, the last 2 fights we're dealing with that.
Where the entire time Claude is basically Pepe Silva. And it pays off at the end.
Yep. Got his cork board,
He spends the entire game like looking up conspiracy theories and mapping stuff out and picking up books and reading through lost tomes and everything. And then he's like, I finally figured it out.
String from him?
Edelgard is like, I'm gonna destroy the church and kill gods. Dimitri is I'm just mad at the world and I'm getting revenge
Kill them
on
all.
everybody. Yeah, basically.
Mhm.
And Claude's just like, hey guys, let's just kind of investigate this weird stuff that's going on.
Hey guys, I'm gonna find out what's really going on, and also let's kill racism.
Right. So we always talk about Three Houses. We always go back to it. Such a great game.
It's a
Yeah.
good game.
But,
Great game.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm going to continue playing Final Fantasy X. I'm actually super happy to be playing it again. As I'm playing it, I'm like, I want to keep
You
playing.
forget how much you love it.
Yeah, it's turn-based combat. There's no
Mhm.
active time bar, so it totally went away from 7, 8, and 9.
Yeah.
Which did, like you better press your buttons quick unless you
Mhm.
put like the wait mode on. But like no, there's a thing on the side. It's like here's the turn order,
And
that's
also
I
Chrono
like that.
Trigger. Chrono Trigger has an active time battle
ATB.
system.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that might have started with like at the end of the Super
6,
Nintendo era with like
maybe?
Final Fantasy 6 and Chrono Trigger and some other games that came out near the end of its lifespan. Because I didn't realize how close to the end of the Super Nintendo lifespan Chrono Trigger came out. That was like
Yeah,
95.
it came out really late.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, check me out, twitch.tv/damnanimal. I'm playing during the day, and sometimes I play in the evenings too. So it
Yep.
depends.
And then I'm just continuing Witcher 3 Blood and Wine. That is a huge departure from the tone of basically the entire the base game and the Heart of Stone expansion.
Isn't this like Geralt just lives in a castle now?
Kind of.
Yeah.
It's like basically you go to France
Yeah.
/ like Holland.
And like you live in a vineyard.
Yeah. Like everything's super colorful. Like all the personalities are like over the top. Everybody loves Geralt. Like even like the peasantry is like, oh, it's the Witcher. We love him. And it's like, why doesn't Geralt just stay here?
What?
Everybody's like, they love him here. They're just like throwing money at him left and right.
They're talking
Guys just-
going to their Witcher.
Guys just like, oh, I can't sleep. There's noises coming from the cemetery. Can you look at it? You know, okay, can you try and figure out what's going on? You know, like, Liz, I'll give you 50 florins or whatever the currency is or whatever. And it's like, that's kind of low for, you know, checking out a monster or whatever. But like, I guess if it's just looking at a noise or whatever. And it turns out it's just like, it's the ghosts of a married couple and they're just fighting because they can't stand to be in the same tomb. So it's just like, I'm just going to move one of you. There, quest over. The end.
Just exhume a body and
Not even. They're in jars, Courtney. It's like their ashes are in jars. It's just like you pick up a jar and you just move it somewhere else. It's like, done. I think I was just like, oh. And the guy's just like, oh, sweet, that's all it was? Sweet, here's your money. Whereas, like, if you told somebody, like, back in, you know, Velen or something, like, oh, it was I had a quest where the guy was like, oh, it's a dragon's attacking or whatever. And then you take care of it and you're like, oh, well, it was actually just a fork tail, but I mean, it was still pretty bad. Guy's like, no, I told you to kill a dragon. I'm not paying you. And it's like, I'm going to murder this whole town. Because that's what Geralt would do. I seen it. I watched the Netflix series.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just, it just transitions from being like brown and gray everywhere and like rain all the time. Everybody's miserable. Everybody's kind of ugly. And like, there are no like really beautiful people in The Witcher aside from like basically the main characters.
Geralt, Yen, and Triss.
And Triss, yeah.
Yeah.
Like your average NPC, like they rolled like 2d20 and added that many warts to their face.
Oh.
With like
like
massive amounts of wrinkles.
Lambert, whatever. The other Witcher guy, Lambert, is that his name?
Yeah.
He's got like the big scar across his face.
Yeah. Yeah. Everybody's scarred. Everybody's been beaten and everything. And it's, to then like, Toussaint is just like French storybook. And I guess that plays into like basically plays into the difference between French fairy tales and German fairy tales, like German and Polish fairy tales.
Yeah.
which I guess makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Eastern Europeans have had it rough for the last 1,500 years.
Yes.
Just a bit.
Yes.
Just a bit. You know.
Even longer, actually. They were fighting the Romans too.
Yeah.
2,000, 2,500 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but yeah, it's kind of just a nice breath of fresh air. And like there's a lot of weird new monsters, like weird mutant plants. That's always a neat thing. Panthers, that's an odd one. Just like, yeah, we're in France, but there's like panthers roaming around. So whatever.
Sure, because that makes total sense. Uh-huh.
Yeah, fine, whatever.
It's a video game. I'm not going to question
There
it.
were probably mountain lions in like ancient France way long ago.
Sure, why not? Whatever.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then just more Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
Because yes.
I am continuing to revel in the piracy portion of the game and continuing to absolutely hate the assassin part of the game.
Follow this guy just out of range and blah, 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 blah.
Oh, I hate it so much. I can't.
Yeah.
I just had to do a mission like that, and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
What is this?
Look, listen.
Assassin's
I can
Creed.
pull out two swords, and I can take on this whole plantation by just blocking.
Exactly.
Like,
Yes.
why am I bothering?
It basically has Batman Arkham combat. Like you see the symbol pop above your head, you hit the button, you dodge. Easy.
And then counterattack, and you auto kill
Exactly.
them on a counterattack.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's lots of quests like that, Courtney, where it's just like, stay exactly 25 yards. But if you get any closer, they'll notice you. But if you get too far, you'll lose them in the crowd. And
But also you have to follow them through a restricted area so that if anybody notices you, you're immediately pulled into combat and you fail. No, it's all those. The actual story of that game can like go jump into a ditch in the bottom of the ocean.
Only one I ever played was Assassin's Creed 2 back on my 360, like in 2009 or 2010 or something. And it was a lot of missions like that. It felt super repetitive. And I was like, this is so boring. I can't do this over and over again. It just didn't interest me. I think the newer ones have improved and added more like RPG elements, particularly like the last two, the one that took place in Egypt and the one in Greece. And even added some like mythological components as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But even then, I don't know. That first one I played left a sour taste in my mouth, and I don't think I'll ever play an Assassin's Creed game again.
Yeah. Well, and that's why like it's funny in how long it's taken Ubisoft to like put out Skull and Bones, which was supposed to be their like 5e or their online competitive pirate game that like basically they announced the E3 like right after Black Flag came out, and everybody was like, oh my god, we love this, it's all pirates. So they were like, okay, we'll take out all of the Assassin's Creed portions of the game and just leave the pirate portions in, and that's the game. And then they still haven't released it, and it's been years. So I assume the project's just been shelved at this point. Like, listen to that. They announced it the same year that Microsoft announced, Sea of Thieves.
Ah.
To give you an idea how long it's been in development.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a game that's not coming out.
Sorry, Sean. No, I don't.
Yeah. Oh well. But yeah. And that's kind of it. It's been absolute chaos. So there hasn't been much besides those two games.
Yeah.
I tried dipping into Warcraft for a little bit, just leveling one of my alts. But it's like I have other games that have a concrete ending that I can play, and I'd rather do those than like going in and just be like, I'm just gonna.
I have other games that have a narrative that makes sense and is decent. So I'm gonna play those.
I have other games that don't have to deal with Sylvanas Windrunner.
Yes.
So I'm gonna play those.
I'm sick of her.
I can't.
The last two expansions and the next one.
Just Shadowlands, she needs to die. She needs to go away and find somebody else. Just do something else. I don't care what at this point.
I wouldn't mind if she was just better written, but whatever.
Yeah, and she's not.
Her motivations just aren't great.
Yep.
I'm mad that I'm a banshee, so now everyone has to suffer too.
Yep.
That's basically her story.
And the part that gets me, and it sounds like I'm just like whining or whatever, but like I was right all along. Like the moment the moment we started talking about the expansion, I said, this is what's going to happen. And she doesn't care, and everybody was like, you're wrong, Sean. No. And then everything happened the way I described it would. And I was just like,
but that's because Blizzard was like, it's going to be morally gray. Morally gray. They kept saying that, and it wasn't even close.
No, not even close. It was so black and white.
I'm not gonna say the comment that just came into my head.
It was so black and white that even the Horde was like, we screwed up again. So yeah. Also, I heard a thing the other day that there are apparently books that talk about like Garrosh and stuff like before Pandaria that basically put him in an even worse light than occurs like in Pandaria and everything, to like show that like no, he actually was wrong.
He did nothing wrong. It's all Thrall's fault.
I mean, Thrall would agree with you.
He's in part.
He certainly believes it's his fault these days, but yeah. So, but I think we have gone on long enough. So, if you want to see more content from 8-Bit Adventures, be sure to check out 8-bitadventures.com. If you want to help support that content, which includes comics, podcasts, streams, and more, check out patreon.com/8bitadventures. You can become a patron for as little as one singular American dollar a month. And with that, you get early access to comics, exclusive access to patrons only comics and content, as well as a discount on merch. So, sadly, that discount, I don't believe will be able to be combined with the Monty discount. I have to check on that, but I don't think it can be. So, and our opening theme is One Up by Professor Shy Guy. You can check out his work at professorshyguy.bandcamp.com. And with that, we're done. So as always, have fun, everyone. Happy gaming. And enjoy your pie cake.
Pizza pie.
Bye, everybody.